ground baits, pellets, wafters, liquids, dyes. There's all sorts of things in the bait world that can blow your mind. I'm here to get rid of those myths and tell you the facts and explain all about some bait. As you know, at Sonubaits, we've got a fantastic range of ground baits that has caught fish all across Europe, all across the UK, thousands and thousands, millions probably. It's just ground baits that have worked and really have stood the test of time now. However, we wanted to listen to you, we wanted to try and play with a few ground baits again, and last year we looked at the concept of doing some smaller bags of ground baits. So this is where the Pro range all came about. Now, what are we going to do with this Pro range? How are we going to change it and adjust it slightly for you, just to give you that different option when you're out on the bank? One of the key features of this Pro range is they're all ground a bit finer. Okay, so that means the particles have spent longer in the grinder. They've obviously been ground down that bit finer, so they're almost like a silkier kind of feel, which some anglers prefer in their ground baits. It's something that I use quite a lot. When you use a ground bait like that, when it's ground that bit finer, you tend to find that it's a little bit stickier. So that's a little feature of these ground baits as well, because they're ground that bit finer. We've also used some incredibly high quality ingredients in these ground baits, which we use across all our ground baits, but it's allowed us to put them in all of these ground baits to do different things. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about this range, and there'll be something in there for you in the sort of fishing that you do, because I use 2 or 3 of these in the fishing that I do with unbelievable success, and they've played a massive part in my fishing recently. So let's start at this end. Here we've got the Pro Dark. Now, a dark ground bait is something that has caught loads of fish. I'll give you a great example, the F1 Dark. What a ground bait that is, a fantastic ground bait that we do at Sonubaits in 2 kilo bags. However, the F1 flavour is very sweet, and we felt that we could do a really nice, fine, fishmealy smell ground bait, and that's what we've got with the Pro Dark. So if you're really into dark ground baits and you want to go skimmer fishing, or you love fishing on clear venues where you're looking for those fishmeal style ground baits, that Pro Dark is the absolute winning choice because it's that darker colour. Of course, we had to think about other colours, and you wouldn't do a ground bait range without looking at green. Green is one of the most successful colours of ground bait there is. They're really, really popular on commercials and all those sorts of venues. I don't know why, I can't tell you why that is, but it's just been so successful. We had to look at the greens. And greens are often based on the koi pellets that we have, which they're just like this magical power they've got. They just draw fish from everywhere. And a lot of our sponsored anglers at Sonubaits always use this Pro Green in their mix, especially when they're skimmer fishing, especially when they're on commercial. So when they're looking for that mix, that fine, beautiful mix, they're looking at this Pro Green. So that colour in the dark and the green definitely gives you an option there. Then I'm going to move on to Thatchers. Now, I don't really think I have to spend a lot of time talking about Thatchers to you, because this is a ground bait that I will not go fishing with a feeder when I'm fishing for skimmers, roach, whatever it might be, and I will not have this ground bait with me. The Thatchers Original is fantastic. It's got a really powerful fish meal in there, and it's a bit of a secret recipe that was used from the Thatchers tackle shops years ago, and we've been lucky enough to get hold of that recipe, and we're now using that with our ground bait. We've also done a dark version, again, like I've touched on with the colour. There is times when you need that darker version. My little key for that would be, if you're in really coloured water, I'd stick with the original. If you're in very clear water, then maybe go to the dark. But remember, these are super powerful ground baits, very strong in fish meal. So if you're looking for that in the venues that you go into, use them. They're also incredibly sticky. Like I've said, the ground really fine, the quality is absolutely superb. So if you're looking for something to sticky up your mix, there's something that you're definitely going to use in there. I always look to add a proportion of these into my mixes, so it's really one to look out for. As we get to the top end, we've got the red style ground baits. First of all, the Meaty salmon. Now, there's a lot of salmon fry crumb in this bait. It's got a really meaty smell, and we've done meaty mixes before, and loads of anglers swear by them. When I go to the show, the first thing they always come up to me is, "Oh, have you got the meaty mix? Have you got it there?" I'll tell you, it's not something that I've actually used that much, and it's something that I really have to get into because I keep getting told relentlessly how good it is by anglers. And when you smell it, you know why. There's always a particular smell to ground baits that are fish meal based, very strong, but these are incredibly strong. They've got that really strong, meaty sort of scent, and I'm sure, especially in the height of summer, that is a go-to ground bait. Edge fishing, that sort of thing, maybe even on a feeder, on your commercials, it's going to catch you a lot of fish. And also in the red range, we've got the Robin Red. Now, the Robin Reds come about through carp anglers. Carp anglers, specimen carp anglers, they absolutely love using that Robin Red ingredient. And in the match world, we've been miles behind in using it. I actually started using the Robin Red about 4 or 5 years ago. I got it from a specimen angler and I was adding it into my mix. And I'll tell you now, on commercials, it had an unbelievable drawing power. So we've now done our own pro range with that in the ground bait. We've also got it in the bigger range, but again, with the pro range, these are finer ground particles. I've actually come to the glebe today to do a bit of fishing, and I know this is going to be my ground bait today, because on the feeder, when I want something really strong with the power to draw those carp in, that Robin Red is going to be brilliant. It's also got a beautifully vibrant red colour, and red is a brilliant colour again. Again, colour is a huge feature of these pro ground baits. We've spent a lot of time thinking about the colours to give you the options, because you know the venues that you go to, they will respond to certain colours at different times. So you can definitely use these ground baits. And then finally, the Super Sweet. Now, Super Sweet is a ground bait that I used almost exclusively last winter. I love the fact that it's a ground, fine, dark expander, red expanders blended together. It's got that like sort of blend of those two colours, really nice colour, really subtle colour, and it's got an incredible sweet caramel swell. It is the most beautiful smelling ground bait I've ever used. And when I was fishing in winters, when I was fishing silverfish matches, be it on a feeder, on a pole, whatever it was, I was literally just taking one bag of Super Sweet with me. You know, they're smaller bags, I can mix that up, it's ground really fine, I can get the perfect consistency, and the bags of Roach I was catching on it were frightening. So it's certainly a ground bait that I would look to use. Again, if I was fishing on reservoirs, it's a ground bait that I would take. I took it down to Tamar last year for the Feeder Masters final because I knew it was going to be successful. I ended up settling with Thatchers actually and F1 Dark, but that was my alternative ground bait, the Super Sweet. I took that down there in case I wanted that sweeter smell. So you can tell throughout this pro range of ground baits, incredibly high quality ingredients, ground to perfection, that silky smooth finish that we just love with those sort of ground baits, and in smaller bags to give you the choice to chop and change, combine ingredients to get the mix that suits you for your fishing.